Hey, thank you for not believing in me. Yes, Lord. Anybody listening right now, don't never let nobody opinion of you determine yourself.
What's going on, everybody? It is your dude Lorenzo coming to you once again with another Let That Marinate podcast episode. It's Wednesday. It's a great day. It's a beautiful day. Went to the gym. It's actually a chill day for me. It's another day off from work. And I was basically gonna just take this day and just chill. And that's pretty much what I've been doing. Just chilling. Not really doing a whole lot. But I had to, come on and do another podcast. I actually thought about I was thinking about waiting to do another podcast, but someone had hit me with a question, and I was like, man, that would be a great topic to talk about, right? And the question was, hey, could you date a sex worker? And I was like, hmm, hmm, would I? Could I? And I was like, you know what? That would be a great topic. Is could you date a sex worker? Would you date a sex worker? And for those who aren't familiar with sex work, because of course, I'm sure when you hear the term sex work, you automatically think porn. You automatically think, just folks having sex. And that's what I thought. And of course, that's pretty much the majority of what it is. That's all I've seen. It's just a whole lot of sex going on. But there actually is a variety of content, you know, regarding sex work. You have those who just post pictures. You have those who does videos of them doing yoga naked, or they're just, you know, they're just expressing, themselves in a sexual way with their bodies. You know, just like some sexy dances, sexy poses, whatever. You even have some who um, they just do feet content. That is a thing. There are people who has a big foot fetish. So you have those who does that type of content. So when I was asked that question, could I date a sex worker? I was like, you know what? It depends on the situation. Are they active? Sexual, are they active sex workers? Are they active, um, you know, are they still, you know, uh, doing the sex work, or, is it that what type of content are they putting out there? Like, what are they doing, regarding sex work? Like, it just all depends. For me, it just all depends. If you're active and depends on the type of content that you're putting out there. Now, if you're just putting out content where it's just, you know, you know, just you solo, you know what I mean? You're just putting out videos of you showing yourself naked. Okay, not a big deal. If you're doing like, just sensual stuff, in a sexual way, in a, an exotic way, where you're just giving off that sexual energy, not a big deal. If you're just doing feet content, not a big deal. But like, if you're like, if it's a like full blown out production, you know what I'm saying? Then yeah, I got a problem with that. I got a problem with, you having sex with other men. I do have a problem with that. Um, Even if you've been doing it for years, even if you and whoever you've been, you know, doing content with, yeah, yes, y'all may have that chemistry, and you like the type of content that you put out, um, and uh, you know, like I couldn't date anyone that's doing that. Like I couldn't date anyone that's doing sex work with other men. Like, yeah, I do have an issue with that. You know what I mean? Because you're doing all this sexual work with another dude, but you expect for me to be in my right mind mentally and be in the right space emotionally to 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 deal with that. And honestly, I don't have the stomach for it. I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't see myself being with someone who is still in that, still in that field doing that. Now, again, if you just want to post yourself, you want to post nude pics and videos of you just, doing solo stuff, okay, not that big of a deal to me. But when you're doing it with other men, yes, it is a problem. And no, I could not date anyone like that. But that's just me. That's just me. Um, and I get it. It's a money making thing for you. Um, it's something that you've been, doing for a while, and it's generated a lot of revenue for you. You know, but again, if you're doing, if you're doing the type of content where it's involving you and another guy, I'm thinking about all kind of things. First of all, um, yeah, y'all may call it sex work, but is there something else between y'all? Like what? Like there has to be some type of chemistry between y'all, in order for y'all to have that type of, in order to make that type of content, create that type of content. Like y'all have to have some type of chemistry and some type of connection. Um, and then also, um, STDs is a concern, right? Because you're doing all this sex work, having sex with other dudes, but then you're coming home to me, and I'm like, there's no way that you could possibly expect for me to want to have sex with you after you just did a whole production with another man, right? Like that's crazy to me. Like I'm like you're I'm actually taking a chance catching something. You know what I'm saying? So that's another concern for me. Um and then I'm just like, yo, I just can't. It would be hard for me to um not have some type of thought of how I feel about myself, even allowing that to even continue, or even allowing myself to even be in a situation like, be in a situation like that. Like, what does that say about me, right? What does that say about me? Me, involving myself, in a situation where, there's so much concerns and there's so much um craziness that can happen. So much craziness that comes with sex work. You know what I mean? And and look, I know a few people who are actually involved in sex work, and they've given me their insight on it, and you know, um, educated me on a lot of it. And of course, this isn't no type of like shade towards anybody who's involved in that. But me personally, again, it depends on the circumstances. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the type of content that you're putting out. Um, because I'm all for everybody embracing themselves. I'm all for people being comfortable in their own skin. I'm all for people, being confident in themselves, because I know it's a lot of us that grew up not really liking the way that we look. A lot of us, we grew up um, being teased a lot. Um, we couldn't get a girlfriend or we couldn't get a boyfriend or whatever. Like a lot of us grew up with that, and we wanted to make some sort of change. And a lot of us, we did resort to sex, right? Like we did, like that was a way for us to feel better about ourselves, because we felt like somebody wanted us. We felt like somebody wanted to, like that was a display of love and affection for a lot of us growing up. Is sex. You know what I'm saying? So that became a thing that we felt we had to continue to do in order to feel like, you know, in order to feel wanted, feel appreciated, feel like, you know, we were worth something. And I'm not saying that's what sex workers are doing. I'm not saying that, you know, their reasons for doing sexual work is because they don't feel good about themselves. I'm sure they do. You know, they're on camera and they're putting it out. They're putting themselves out there like that. So I'm pretty sure they feel good about themselves. But what I'm saying is, um, for a lot of us, that's all we know. All we know is to be sexually active because that was just a way for us to feel like we were loved. That was just a way for us to feel like, you know, you know, to feel good about ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that someone wants us in that way, you know, so, you know, and that just kind of stuck with a lot of us. But at the end of the day, man, if sex work and listen to all the sex workers out there, if you're if that's your thing, hey, by all means, you know, do what you do, make your money. Um, you know, so this episode really isn't bashing sex work. Um, the question was asked to me, you know, could I be involved with a sex worker? And again, my answer is, well, it depends. Depends on what type of sex work you're doing. It depends on if you're still active in it. Um, you know, it just all depends. You know, it just all depends. You know, um, now of course there are some who may say, "Well, yeah, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. You know, I can't be involved with a sex worker." You know, because like I said, you know, when people hear the term sex work, you know, they automatically think sex. You know, that's what it is. They ought to, you know, they're assuming that they're having sex with somebody on camera. They're showing everybody. So yeah, but at the same time, um, and I had to learn this for myself. I had to look into it myself because I thought that's what it was. It was just straight sex, but there's a lot more to it. Is various content, you know, um, you know that surrounds sex work. It's a lot of different types of content, you know, that people put out there. So yeah, it just all depends, man. You know, all depends. You know, for me anyway, me personally, it just all depends. Anyway, that's my time for right now. Um, I'm going to chill for the rest of the day. You know, it's a beautiful day, so I'm just going to sit outside with my cigar and just chill. But in the meantime, thank you so much for everybody who's been supporting this podcast thus far. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate the love and the support. Thank you so much. Until then, y'all take care. Salute. Let that marinate.
Hey, thank you for not believing in me. Yes, Lord. Anybody listening right now, don't never let nobody opinion of you determine your